Now, it's day 21 of Donald Trump's government shutdown.
Democrats chose to put the demands of far-left activists ahead of serving the American people.
It's Groundhog Day, you know, and I'm just saying, and it's not entertaining. That's a great movie, but this is shit. And now it's like now real damage is going to, are now touching the lives of regular Americans.
It's day 21 of the government shutdown, and neither side of the aisle is bending. This as Senate Republicans meet with President Trump for a lunch in the newly renovated Rose Garden at the White House. We will dig into the funding fight with Florida Republican Congressman Brian Mast just ahead. But first to our Jackie Heinrich. She is live at that White House. And Jackie, you got some more details on that Trump-Putin meeting that was going to happen in Budapest, but now won't happen.
Yeah, that meeting is off. We were told it would happen likely within the next couple of weeks before the end of the month. And now, after the Secretary of State Marco Rubio spoke to his Russian counterpart yesterday, those plans are canceled. The statement from a senior White House official said Secretary Rubio and Foreign Minister Lavrov had a productive call. Therefore, an additional in-person meeting between the Secretary and Foreign Minister is not necessary, and there are no plans for President Trump to meet with President Putin in the immediate future. Now, this might come as a surprise to the Kremlin because they described the call yesterday between Lavrov and Rubio as constructive regarding next steps to implement understandings that were reached between Trump and Putin. Quite a different readout that we got from the State Department. So we are awaiting reaction from Russia on this. Meantime, to the shutdown, we just heard from the Senate Majority Leader John Thune here at the White House Rose Garden Club lunch. The president has called on Democrats to reopen the government, turn the lights back on, and then they can talk about an extension for the Obamacare subsidies. But he has called Democrats obstructionists. Listen here.
Unfortunately, in a craven and pointless act of partisan spite, Chuck Schumer, who I've known for a long time, and the radical left Democrats are holding the entire federal government hostage to appease the extremists in their party. And they are extreme. I mean, I've never seen anything like it.
Schumer put it this way this morning.
Senate Republicans, they're headed to the White House today, not for negotiations, not to work on any path out of a shutdown or to avert a health care crisis, but for a Rose Garden pep rally with Donald Trump.
So Republicans are willing again to discuss an extension of the Obamacare subsidies. House Speaker Mike Johnson said the president's read in on all the details. He said he met with him in the Oval Office for 2 hours last night, and they went over these things. There are a few proposals floating around, of course. There's a group of centrist Republicans who have proposed extending the subsidies as is for a year. But there are other members, Republican members, especially in the Senate, who say, look, we want to do something, but we probably need to change, modify the subsidies to come under the COVID era expanded level, which they say shows the Affordable Care Act is not so affordable after all. So in sum, not much has changed. No clear sign the government's going to reopen anytime soon. John.
All right, Jackie Heinrich with the preview from 1600 Pennsylvania. Jackie, thanks so much. Let's bring in Florida Republican Congressman Brian Mast for more on this. I always like to find personal anecdotes when we're talking about government work here. Took my wife to the eye doctor yesterday. That doctor has got a lot of patients who are government employees. And he said to me yesterday, he said, a lot of people are really worried. They're scared. They don't know how they're going to make ends meet because they're going without paychecks now, and they don't know how to put food on the table. So what would you say to those folks?
I'd say rightfully they should be scared because you have Democrats that the president laid out the case for almost an hour. They're not interested in victories for Americans. They're not interested in a bill in the House of Representatives that would not open the government, but just make sure that these people that have been working get their paychecks. They're not interested in a bill that says, hey, you're a member of the military. Let's just make sure that the military gets paid in the name of national defense. They're interested in paying on the American people because they think, as Schumer said, that it makes every day better for the Democrats. So they should be frightened of that.
All right. So how long would you say to those folks who are getting scared that this is going to go on?
I think you look at the Democrat Party and they're not putting down the shovel, they're continuing to dig their own grave on this. They're doubling and tripling down on the fact that, you know what, even if you guarantee us a vote on Obamacare subsidies, no, that's not good enough. We're still not going to reopen the government. They keep doubling down on these things. And you guys have laid out the case of very real threats for days. You know, FAA is one of the easiest examples. I think the president pointed to that one as well. If you have the same number of flights, but less air traffic controllers working in the towers, that's a very real physical threat for anybody traveling in aviation. What are they waiting for? 2 planes to collide? These are real things that they're not willing to pay attention to, strictly in the name of what they think is political victory for them.
All right, so Republicans keep pointing to the provision in the Democrats' continuing resolution to repeal Section 2141, the big, beautiful bill, which would provide some monies for illegal aliens for health care. But the crux of the issue appears to be, at least from where I'm standing, is this idea of the Obamacare enhanced tax credits and extending those. There seems to be bipartisan support for that. The president even says that he'd think about it. John Thune, as you point out, has offered a vote on that if Democrats vote to reopen the government. Why not just put an extension in the CR, leave everything else that the Democrats want out of it, vote on it, and get the government back open again? I mean, if everybody's talking about extending these tax credits, why not just do it?
It's a very real possibility, and I think that you could come to that point. But what you have legislatively right now is Republicans never voted for the original Obamacare tax subsidies or the subsidies. Republicans never voted for the expanded subsidies during the COVID-19 era. And so you have a real opportunity for us to sit at the table and say, listen, should somebody that's making less than $60,000, should they get $5,000 in subsidies, but the guy making $61,000, he's going to pay the subsidies for the guy making $60,000? That doesn't make sense. It's not fair across the board. Let's look at all of this because we know Obamacare is unaffordable. We know it's costing these people on this side big time. It's costing everybody, you know, in terms of their unusable health care because they can't even pay beyond the premiums. They can't pay to actually use the care. So let's have a real debate about this and get to a place that it actually works for Americans. But again, they're not interested in the victories for Americans. Not on Obamacare subsidies, not on keeping dollars from going towards feminism in Africa or LGBTQI in the Balkans, not on any of these fronts, not on health care for illegals.
Well, that's why I mentioned why not just put the tax credits into the CR and take a vote on that. But here's the problem. I got to do this real quickly if I could. Is in 11 days, open enrollment starts. And that's when people, even in red states, many of them in red states, are going to see their premiums increase. You're running out of time.
Let's make 2 timely points real quick. One, you make the point on 11 days these subsidies run out, so that has to be addressed. Absolutely, we need to debate it. The other thing, this CR that the Senate keeps voting on, it ends on November 21st. So we're about to get right onto this same roller coaster come November 21st again if we don't change the date on that.
All right, we'll keep watching it, as we always do. Congressman, thank you very much for being with us.
Of Delaware, who was on the Appropriations Committee. Senator Coons, great to have you on.
Trace, thanks. Great to be on with you again.
Same lead question, because you had both John Thune coming out saying, listen, there is nothing to negotiate. Open the government and then we'll negotiate. And on the flip side, you had Chuck Schumer saying, we just want to negotiate.
Well, Trace, it's pretty striking that the House of Representatives hasn't come to work for weeks. And what you did just play, Chuck Schumer saying, was we need to sit down and negotiate a way to avoid huge increases in health care for millions of Americans, which kicks in on November 1. I support that. President Trump ran on lowering our costs and making Americans healthier again. And what's going to happen to millions of Americans on the Affordable Care Act exchanges November 1 is that their health insurance rates will go up dramatically. In Delaware, our insurance commissioner has already published rates that say health insurance will cost more than at any point since the last Trump administration. There is a way forward. We could negotiate around this. There's a letter circulating now by 13 House Republicans urging Speaker Johnson to bring them back into session and negotiate to fix this urgent, imminent rise in health care costs that'll impact all Americans.
John Thune was asked about that. He said, look, the House has done its work. You mentioned the House being out. He said the House has already done its work. It is now up to the Senate to do their work. And I guess the question to you would be, why not just vote yes on the continuing resolution, open it up, and then do the negotiating?
Because I have no confidence that if we reopen, there will be negotiations. There is a path forward here where we get a commitment to a path forward to votes on our appropriations bills and to this Affordable Care Act fix. But that's so far not been put on the table. I do think President Trump has a critical role to play here. Before he leaves our country for a week, traveling in the Indo-Pacific, I hope that he will sit down with Minority Leader Schumer and with Minority Leader Jeffries. He can break this impasse. He has said in the past that he doesn't want Americans to see huge increases in their health insurance costs. No. If he says, let's do this and work out a deal, I'm confident it can happen. If he doesn't, then we're going to have more and more Delawareans calling me saying they're concerned their health care costs are skyrocketing.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned President Trump there, because the numbers guy over at CNN said this shutdown is not hurting President Trump's numbers at all. In fact, it's improving the numbers. Watch this.
This shutdown hasn't eaten into Donald Trump's support at all. His net approval rating is actually up a point in terms of his popular support. So the bottom line is this. The first shutdown during Trump's first term, 2018-2019, was hurting Donald Trump. This one is not hurting him at all. There's no real reason Donald Trump might say, at least when it comes to popular support, I want to get out of this shutdown.
Kind of a weird dichotomy, right? Because you have Trump's numbers going up because of the shutdown, and yet you have a Reuters poll coming out and saying that 50% blame Republicans. What's your takeaway?
Right. So, Trace, my takeaway is that all of us should be working together to try and avoid needless pain to millions of Americans. Longer emergency room waits, an inability to get preventive care from physicians. I've heard from doctors, from hospital leaders in Delaware who are saying that they are bracing for impact. The president should be worried less about who's getting the blame and who's getting the credit, and more about working with us to find a path forward to avoid skyrocketing health insurance costs. In most states like mine, those letters go out November 1. That's when my citizens, the folks from Delaware, will find out how much their health costs go up. And I think there's going to be a big push on us to fix it then. My concern is it'll be too late.
Right.
Instead of spending time bailing out the Argentine government to the tune of $40 billion, instead of spending time on building a new gold-plated ballroom at the White House, I wish our president were spending time negotiating over how to avoid these big increases in costs.
You say, Senator, that you've heard from your doctors and they're telling you the rising costs. We just heard from a doctor who also happens to be in the Senate, Bill Cassidy, who says your plan is going to drive costs up because you want to give health benefits to illegal immigrants, which, by the way, is true in a lot of cases.
That is not at all true. And as I know Dr. Cassidy, Senator Cassidy, and I know he knows this, it is not legal to be enrolled in the Affordable Care Act, Medicare, or Medicaid unless you're in the United States legally. There is no path here for giving health care to illegal aliens. That is not a core part of the agenda of the Democratic Party.
We are right now
Trace,
in California, Senator.
Tell me what that path is.
The path is that in California, they have been giving health care to illegal immigrants, and they've been asking the federal government to fund a portion of that money.
Using state money.
And the federal government is wanting to pull. No, they're not using state money. They're using federal and state money.
Trace,
and they're asking for the federal government to give more money.
It is against the law. It's in the statute. It is against the law to enroll in the Affordable Care Act, Medicare, or Medicaid.
They're not enrolled
if you are here illegally.
They're giving benefits, medical benefits, to illegal immigrants, and they are asking the federal government to fund a portion of those benefits.
Okay. Trace, in my state of Delaware, that is not happening, and nationally, it is not legal to enroll people in Medicare, Medicaid, or the Affordable Care Act who are not here legally.
Senator, thank you for your time. We appreciate it. Best of luck.
Thank you, Trace.
We hope this thing gets worked out.